Good evening, welcome to Norwalk City School Board regular meeting Tuesday, August 16th, 2022, 7 o'clock p.m. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
I'm here.
And Mrs. Witt?
Here, we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a motion for adoption of the agenda. So moved. Thank you. A second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Norris?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes. Okay, recognition.
Yes, it's our honor tonight to recognize Mrs. Winkler, who has been a teacher for 35 years and 34 of those with the Norwalk City School District. So awesome job, Laura. So it's a great day and sad day for us. But this time I'm going to turn over to the principal, Mr. Ken Moore.
So thanks for getting us warmed up to the pledge. It's been a couple months since we've done that, everyone. Laura Smith, Mrs. Winkler, we know you. Laura has dedicated her life to the service of young children. She has, as Mr. Cooley indicated, been a pillar of our community. She's taught for, as I was just talking to her, getting some more little details, 35 years or so for Norwalk, 34, 35, and has subbed and was in half a year at, I think, at Western Reserve. So a number of years, especially here with Norwalk. But I believe all of them except the one in Norwalk. Laura's taught third grade at Pleasant Elementary. She came to us a few years back to teach kindergarten at Maplehurst. I remember when she did come back, it was no hesitation at all. I just knew her as a third grade teacher when I taught fifth grade at Pleasant. But just knowing her as a teacher, she was welcomed with open arms to our school. Throughout her career, she has remained steadfast as a solid educator. Whether it be applying for a science grant the last couple of years for magazines for her class for science, class through the Norwalk Endowment Fund, or planting sunflowers around the school to beautify the environment, and not even getting upset. Folks, she spent a lot of the time in the summer, things you laugh it up, planting sunflowers around the school, the front and the back. And then they disappeared one day. And there was a little boy who thought they were weeds. Pulled them out, and I think he laid them, where's Gloria? I think he laid them so neatly at the base of our sign. She wasn't upset. The next day, there was just a little sign that said, please, don't pick the flowers. Yeah, that just goes to speak to her nature.
The boy just disappeared, did he, Mr. Moore?
I don't know. I didn't bother to look on the camera.
Okay.
She took care of that one. She just simply made the sign and went on her way. Laura is always showing how she was thinking of her students. With the sunflower seeds, there was one time I was walking in her class and doing an off-year observation on her, and it was in November. The kids were in the back at a center using the sunflower seeds. There's no occupational therapist here. Mrs. Meyer's daughter is pretty close to her, but what she was doing was they had tweezers and they were picking the sunflower seeds and working on their dexterity with their fingers and putting them into. I thought that was so ingenious. She used them at the beginning of the year and then showed the kids how they just went through the circle of life there. When I needed a few teachers to do kindergarten screening just a week ago, right in this very building, without hesitation, Laura was there to do it. Where do you think, where does all this dedication and desire come from? Well, a few of us here remember Laura's mom, Harriet Parcher. Any nods? Yeah. Okay. She had a career in education, beginning in Norwalk. Her mother did. Taught in Norwalk City Schools, Western Reserve as well. She then became an administrator of the Huron County local schools, elementary supervisor, and later director of curriculum instruction. She's had an excellent path to follow and has filled her mom's shoes so very well. You make many of us proud of your accomplishments, and we're truly thankful for the many years, especially in the caring and dedication to the young children of our community. So with everybody here, we say thank you, Laura, for all the years that you've done and have done them so well. Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the most touching pieces in the retirement resignation letter that Mrs. Winkler sent to me was the acknowledgement of she's had a great life, a great career, 35 years in education, but she's looking to the future like it is time for someone else. And I've never received a letter from anyone who has left the district with retirement or just leaving the district that's looking out and saying, like, it's time for a new person. It's time for someone younger than myself to enter this field and have a great career and a great life that I had. So I'm going to keep her letter because that was touching to me to see that it's not just looking about what I've done in this district. It's she's looking out, she's eyes for other people. So that speaks volumes of what Laura Winkler and who she is as a person. So any colleagues would like to say anything? Now is your time, if you would. Feel free. You have a couple minutes.
She's ready to volunteer. She wants to sub and volunteer.
Another stop, yes.
Thank you everyone for your kind words and thoughts, and Norwalk's like family to me, and I truly have had a very rewarding and pleasurable career here. I've met so many wonderful children and so many nice families, and they're always so supportive, and I just can't say enough for the gratitude that I've had, and thank you all for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. It means a lot.
At this time, public participation. For each person who wishes to address the board will be asked to give his or her name and address. Remarks should be limited to 3 minutes in length. If everyone who wishes to do so has had an opportunity to speak, additional comments can be made up to a total allotted time of 30 minutes. Anyone? Sure. Not. Special presentation.
All right, I'm gonna do right now. Because I was supposed to take by the printer, very last minute.
Thank you.
Or should we share it with you real quick?
You can just plug yours in and then switch that. Well, she can plug it in and then just switch that.
Oh, I broke it.
We're here.
Sorry, technical difficulties.
Do we have Joyce on Zoom? Yes.
She's not on there.
Oh, she's hanging tight. She didn't want her face up there the whole time, so she requested the seal in her place.
Okay. Can I stand here? Is that everybody see? Okay. So
my name is Morgan Savage, and I am currently the coordinator of our wonderful Ernst Haus Performing Arts Center. So I started in October last year, and I know I'm still brand new, and I still learn new things every day, but I've already fallen in love with this place, and I'm happy to have an opportunity to share with you some of the things that have already happened, some of the things that are being worked on, and what some of our hopes are for the future of this facility. If my slide can be where it is.
You can use that one in the smells.
Oh, that's it.
There you go.
Man, I just broke it. Yeah. Sorry, everybody.
So goes Joyce.
You're okay. Just,
Oh, it's on this one. All right, I won't throw the mouse this time. So, I want to touch on kind of the history of the facility, when it was built, what's happening now, and what we want to do in the future, and share some cool things with you. So, EPAC facility, when it opened, it was during the 2001-2002 school year, with a gift from the Ernst Haus Trust of $3 million. And it was state of the art at the time that it was built. It was far and away better than any other school, theater, the likes of which were not usually seen connected to the school. And the original vision was for this to become kind of a gem in the crown of the community, of the district, to bring in all kinds of programming and cultural enrichment opportunities for the community and the surrounding communities, and first and foremost, the students. When I first started, somebody shared a pretty fun story with me, and it resonated with me, and I keep it in the back of my mind when I'm thinking about stuff I want to do in the future. Apparently, when this facility was first built, all shiny and new, the powers that be caught word of a nationally acclaimed performance troupe that was going on a tour, and they were going to be in the area. So the goal was to bring them into the facility. And once phone calls were made and the numbers were crunched, we learned that we were going to have to sell out the entire theater for 30 nights in a row and spend several $1,000s on equipment for the stage to facilitate this caliber of performance. And I bet you guys can imagine that's a devastating blow for the enthusiasm that was very much pushing forward this original vision of the facility. So over time, it kind of settled into a facility that caters almost exclusively to the students, which is great because that's the original goal. But one of the casualties of time was that original vision, the infrastructure and possibilities of really bringing in some incredible programming for the whole community and additional enrichment opportunities for the students. So now it's 90% school-related events with just kind of a smattering of private interest groups coming in, having meetings and an occasional performance, but not some grand thing that we're selling a ton of tickets for and bringing in money. And it's also kind of unsupportive, the whole operation is unsupportive of that high caliber programming that was part of the original vision. And I skipped our tech, a lot of our tech. 20 years is a long time for tech. It moves very quickly, and much of that is obsolete or broken. So, when I first started, I was tasked with kind of reinvigorating that original vision, bringing in programming, and also overseeing an overhaul of our tech, doing a big renovation. So first thing I did was call a bunch of theaters and do a bunch of research and try to come up with some benchmarking for what our future goals could be and what potential we could strive for. And for the sake of time, I'm just going to pick one of them, and I picked one that's near and dear to Mr. Cooley's heart. It is Niswanger, am I saying that right? Niswanger Performing Arts Center. It's in your hometown, you should know this, right?
Close enough.
Okay. So Niswanger Performing Arts Center is in Van Wert, Ohio. Van Wert has a population of about 10,500. I showed that's the distance to Cleveland, Toledo, and Columbus, and it has 1,150 seats. already fairly similar to our facility. And that picture is of the inside of their Performing Arts Center. You can see even, I didn't want to inundate this with pictures, but even the setup of their lobby, you walk in the front doors, you've got your concession stand and then 2 doors. I mean, it's built very similarly, similar demographics. And their operation is incredible. Their executive director sung like a bird when I talked to her. I wanted to just learn how an outfit like this is so successful. And I learned a lot. They have a full-time staff of 7, focusing on all the areas that I listed, an operational budget of $3 million a year, and that goes toward booking and staffing. 70% of that comes from ticket revenues, and then the other 25 is community gifts, grants, resources that are out there. And they have some really high caliber programming. The likes of Air Supply, Lee Osmond, Kansas, and most importantly, a personal friend of Mr. Cooley's, girl named Tom, who I wish you would call him some favors and get them in here.
For the record, Van Wert is not my hometown, so that was,
Oh, that's
no,
what.
they're connected, so
Okay, got it.
not my hometown.
Well, you know girl named Tom, definitely.
Yes.
So how do we get there? I mean, these are pulled straight from the homepage of this theater, and something like that isn't going to happen overnight. Because in order to attract this kind of programming, to bring people in the seats to buy tickets, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of things moving forward, a lot of time. So since I started, I've been moving forward on a lot of different projects, a lot of different endeavors. We definitely need more programming. And over to the right, I kind of did an outline of what I've been able to book so far. That's different to what has happened in the past. Some of them have dollar amounts, others are just tentative, profit shares, that kind of thing. So that's roughly $73,000 worth of booking, completely free. Because at the present, I actually don't have an entertainment budget. We can't get an entertainment budget without bringing in revenue. These are the kinds of events that can start bringing in money, that we can turn around, spend on more events, bring in more money. There's also those resources that I mentioned before, grants, sponsorships, donors. Because we haven't had any grand performances or anything like that, we don't really have the infrastructure for promotion, marketing, social media. So I've got years turning on that to try and get some presence out there and get the community involved and see what's going on. Starting with several connections I've made who have marketing backgrounds and a soft spot for the arts, who are willing to help come up with a marketing plan, show me the ropes so I can oversee something like that. And they believe that the renovation, which I'll touch on later, is a great catalyst to start getting the word out to the community and getting people excited about what's to come. Also, some operational amenities. We have the ability to do online ticket sales, and we also need to upgrade our tech. We need that state-of-the-art tech to cater to the needs of that high caliber programming and start to attract the right kinds of performances. Which leads me to Bryce Hellman. Bryce Hellman is a 2009 Norwalk alum, and in a short period of time, he has become the founder, president, and CEO of one of the top tech firms in the country, farming out the majority of their work to the likes of Universal Studios and Disneyland, Disney World, with a lot of the individual projects weighing in like a couple $100,000. So again, when I first started, I was tasked with overseeing this renovation. I started making phone calls to learn the process, talked to a bunch of theaters, figured out what they did, and I hit a lot of walls, and I was met with the concept that before we had anything to show for it, if we wanted to start moving forward on the project, we would absolutely need consulting and design, and still have nothing to show for it, and that was at minimum $70,000. So the project got put on hold for a bit, and then Bryce Hellman came walking through the doors like a knight in shining armor. He took a tour of the facility, and EPAC is near and dear to his heart because he got his start here. This is what invigorated his love of arts and entertainment and that launched him into a career as an incredibly successful entertainment tech wizard. So after going through the facility, seeing what we were hoping for, he has offered all of these services, the consultation design, everything you see there, which is a massive amount of money, really, that he's going to be providing for free. And we're already in the process of going through this overall tech renovation, and that comprises primarily the sound and lighting, but there's a bunch of little extras that he's been able to build in, like video capabilities, things for the LGI and Art Gallery. It's really cool. You guys can see it soon. This is the project roadmap of the whole design, and as you can see, we're right in the very beginning. Mostly just actually working very extensively with the tech department to get some answers to what we currently have, what our limitations are, where could we go. And even though we're in the very beginnings of this process, one thing is very clear. In order to prevent what has happened now, as in all of our tech becoming absolutely broken, in order to prevent that from happening again, once we have a whole new shiny technology suite for our facility, we need a growth plan to support smaller upgrades over a long period of time rather than one massive upgrade every 20 years. So it's a tiny baby step, but I think that a really good way of addressing the beginnings of this plan are to clean up and consolidate our current rate schedule, our fee schedule that's been published and been in use for quite some time. So I know it's really small on the slide, so I included the back sheet of your guys' little packets have a much better version of that. And okay. So this is currently how we structure our charges. There are so many categories, A through H, and a lot of ambiguity in what constitutes any one of these categories. And the fee listed is actually a 4-hour block. And it doesn't leave room for extra staffing line items because custodial fees and coordinator fees are tacked on at the end once the event is done and ready to bill. So if I have a commercial interest group come in and they want to host a seminar here and they want to rent the auditorium for 3 hours after working hours, so after the school day, then, and they ask me how much it's going to cost, I could say, well, it's going to cost you $687. That includes the rental fee and the staffing. Or a different custodian could work it. Then it comes out to $630. Or the custodian's already on shift and the hours don't get charged. I'm not going to read them all, but basically any of these number of things could happen at the end of the day. So when they ask me how much it's going to cost them, I do a lot of stuttering, and that's not really good luck, and it's been met with a lot of frustration, and I think that's understandable. So to add to the circus, a lot of these numbers that are listed, the origin of them and the individual components that make up those numbers are not known. But it's been so long that anybody's had a chance to really look at these and figure out where those numbers come from. So I took a look at the cost to run the facility from a utility standpoint. I took a percentage of custodial fees and percentage of coordinator fees, attributed certain amounts to LGI versus auditorium versus art gallery, and I also consolidated that list of A through H categories and pulled out some of the important aspects. Student interest, private interest, nonprofit, charging admission, and then working hours, non-working hours, to come up with a cleaner, flat hourly rate that is inclusive of the staffing with a little bit of a cushion built in for this growth plan, the upgrades that need to happen over time. So that same group, that wants to come in and do a 3-hour seminar in the auditorium, when they call and they ask how much it's going to cost them, I'll send them to 10. I can say with confidence, that's what they're going to be billed. So yeah, this is, I think, a really good start in standardizing and getting this out there to the public, getting new expectations out there so people know that they're going to be charged when they come in. I did forget to mention on the last slide, nope, that didn't work. How do I go back? Can't go back. But on the last slide, when I said exceptions, $0, that once all said and done, and we've talked about the event, any number of exceptions, whether it's they've been grandfathered into this or there's a member of their group, there's a lot of times where they end up not being charged at all. So I think this creates a more standardized way of communicating and making sure that we have consistency in what we're charging moving forward, and actually start to bring in some healthier revenue. Any questions?
So how has this been presented to the treasurer? Or how are you planning on financing any of that idea?
Which?
Well, I mean, any of the money to put into this, we talked about upgrades, what is the plan on financing that? Because, I think that it's a great idea when it comes to community things, building up a community, having people come in. I'm probably going to be unfriendly to some people here, but I don't know if that's the best use of funds for a public school district. I personally would need a lot more detail to feel comfortable with this. I don't mind. We've talked to Mr. Cooley about upgrades needed for our students and shows and things.
All things.
If we're going above and beyond expense to try to bring in income, or I guess I would need to see a much more detailed business plan to feel comfortable with that, because I'm not sure we're going to get that money back that we're going to be putting in. And when we're looking at our 5-year forecast of the district, I don't see that being the smartest move for the district. I think that, and again, this is a short presentation. I'm telling you from what I see, I would feel very uncomfortable being like, yeah, let's go at this point. I do think that there's money in certain accounts right now that we could do upgrades that are beneficial to our kids. But, okay, just for instance, looking at what you have booked right now and what's out there, I think we would have to have a really good idea of an interest level and what kind of funds that would bring in, a better idea of that. Because, I mean, just think, the State Theater didn't make it, and I remember when that was used a lot more.
Well, they got hit by a tornado. That's why
I
they
mean,
didn't make
yes, but I mean, if the need was there.
They do run a very successful operation, and I didn't mention for the sake of time, I have an advisory board that is kind of waiting in the wings right now, but that advisory board is ready to, and it's full of representatives, each with either a very strong background in some element of arts or operations of theater. One of the members is the executive director of Ireland Symphony, who is very intimately aware of how to work in the scene of the grants and the sponsorships and the community funding. So that's kind of her role in the advisory board. I've got somebody who's in marketing. This is absolutely the 1,000-foot view. Okay, there's going to be a much more granular detail. And if you're talking about the renovation, we're in such beginning phases of that, and there's a lot of, I don't want to say too much because we're still trying to figure a lot out, but we have a lot of the infrastructure in place already. And this programming that I'm talking about, when I say I booked $33,000 worth of programming, that was 100% free. It's already booked. It's already on the schedule.
I did have a question. You have like the Ireland Symphony Orchestra, you have $22,000 next week. Is that what they're expecting to make
No, that is how much it costs to book them.
normally?
Yeah.
But they're doing it for us for
Right.
free.
So I've been working hard to foster a lot of those kinds of relationships, bartering, begging, working together, even some profit shares in some cases down the road. There's a lot in the works there, but the relationship that I have with Ireland Symphony, we figured out a way to get them in here to do a community concert free of charge. And then that expanded into a concert that they're going to do for the 5th graders as an exploratory concert to help them pick an instrument going into the music programs. And we might even be inviting other schools in the area to attend that. So a lot of these events that I'm talking about, most of the time will have an educational component, because if we're going to be able to tap into the resources that are out there, the trusts, the grants, sponsorships, that educational component is one of the criteria. So, but again, 1,000-foot view.
Right.
If I really could get into the granular detail, I can assure you that the whole plan is for eventually, not overnight, the programming to be self-sustaining. Like the Elvis Tribute Band, at 60% capacity, it's listed on there, they're gonna do a Christmas show. At 60% capacity, at $25 a ticket, we'll still net 14 grand, and that's one night. And that's after paying them. So things like that, we'll be able to take that 14, turn it around, use 9 grand to pay for the Chicago Ballet that's doing a performance in Mansfield, that kind of thing.
I know in Norwalk, they're working on the theater there, reconstructing everything there. Are you working at all with them?
Yeah, actually, so presently, since I don't have an entertainment budget, but I do have space. They don't have money, but they have people and the programming ideas, and we're working on some pretty stellar collaborations. They're actually going to be coming and doing a Matilda Junior show in November. They might even be holding auditions here, but all students are invited to that, all districts. They're also pretty heavily into like visual arts, things that they have people who can teach how to throw pottery, those kinds of things, to host events in the art gallery. But we've been talking a lot about future programming ideas. And even though one would think that similar outfits would be competitors, I think that people that live and breathe the arts know that we really need to look out for each other. And we all have a vested interest in the community as a whole, having a love for the arts and participating in these sorts of things. So we really want to set a precedent for making sure the community knows we're working together. And that's going to manifest itself in collaborations like that.
Would you guys be opening a separate nonprofit to
So
help
that's
raise the money?
That's the mechanism, because we spoke,
Okay.
we owe it to our kids and our staff to have quality facilities here.
Right.
So even when we put on a musical every year, Robin Rogers has that, we need to make sure we don't have issues, and we've been having issues, that whole system. So we owe it to our own. But with that said, when you look at rates and you have a top level facility, then we can. Schools aren't built for doing what we're talking about here. So it's the separate mechanism, that funding piece, where Morgan potentially in this role has the ability to draw from an account that's not a public school structured account, because us using our funds for that, it's difficult to do. So with her referencing some other places that have that, Clyde, for example, closed, they have some similar structure where it's outside the school, there's funding available where we can draw an account, where she can write checks and make things happen quickly, almost if I did. It's not the same as a booster club can do.
Right, I was just saying,
Music, athletics,
fundraiser, separate funds.
academic,
Right.
they can write checks and make things happen quickly. So when we have a volunteer, say a group from Ashland or Heidelberg or Tiffin, they come in, perform for our kids, which is a very impressive, nice thing to do. We can at least give them Subway sandwiches out the door when they're expecting zero in return. Like, we want to do those simple things. So the mechanism for funding, that clearly has to be worked out, because the school piece is not there, but we owe it to have our facility in tip-top shape.
Well, and I want to emphasize too that the boosters, their focus is drawing from the members of the community, and I think that if we have the right kind of mission and we're bringing in the right kinds of programming, again with that educational component, then we can expand outside of just pulling from the members of the community and really get some pretty significant grants. I mean, I've been looking into many opportunities, and I think that there's a lot out there that is yet untapped.
Are there other board members involved as far as part of urged housing that we need to communicate with? Has anybody, do we need to include other people from the outside that started this
I
establishment?
don't see any issue with that.
There is a board that we talk to, or,
Well,
What do you mean? Like,
well,
the
you're talking about
Ernst
Ernst
Housing
Housing, yeah.
oh, the plan right now, again, we're in the very, very beginning stages of the renovation. But there's been talk, especially with members of the eventual advisory board, as to how to approach initiating a conversation with that. Just to make sure that in revisiting the original vision and making a new one, we're not stepping on any toes or making any egregious changes.
So nothing,
There is a
nothing we
current-
talked about.
There is a current board for the Hearst Housing Trust? I have no idea.
Yes, there is a separate, which is not connected to her. That's where she's
Okay, so
walking the
Right,
line.
I'm not- I
It's
don't-
not connected to her.
I'm not connected,
It's,
no.
yeah,
That once, so their name's on the building, they gave us the $3 million at the origin of this.
right.
And then have kind of separated themselves. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
did that answer your question?
Well, anyway, so, I mean, do we need their blessing, I guess, is what I'm looking for.
That's something that I will definitely have an answer to before we make any crazy changes. But that was a long-winded presentation. I wanted to show you guys what could potentially happen. But the small piece here is that I really would like to get approval on this new fee schedule, and we can use this going forward.
Tonight, Morgan, you're just asking us to approve this fee schedule.
Yes.
Okay.
Right now, we just have it, no, so right now, we just have it as a presentation. We don't have it as an item.
It's not
We don't have it as an item for approval.
Do we need to approve this tonight? Do you want this approved tonight?
We can push it.
our September meeting is soon enough, so we can do that, and that way you have additional time to talk.
Right.
Well, yeah, I think a couple other questions. Yeah, I mean,
Because you hear them for the first time, that's typically not to say
There's
we
a lot
want
of
that,
information.
that quickly. So I would say in our September meeting, we can look at that part of approving that piece.
Morgan, could you email us the change between what we have now and what you're proposing, just so I can see the difference of the rates?
Yeah.
If you don't care
Yeah,
how
all
they're
of us,
structured.
'cause I-
Yeah, like with the board, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. If we could see the difference between the two structure, because it makes sense what you're saying, and when you
Yeah.
start to take it all apart.
I'm a numbers person too. I'd like to have the
Like
Excel
to see
spreadsheet to figure out where those are coming from. I
And
get
then,
it.
and then also if you have, the schedule as far as what our school uses it for already, where they're at on the calendar, what would be available, just, how open is it, I guess, is my, 'cause I know
Yeah, I
the
actually-
musical usually is several months, but,
I went through and I
okay. So
did
you have it all,
percentages.
just-
I didn't want to like bog this
Yeah,
down.
this is a
I
lot.
took long enough. But yeah, I've actually got those numbers I can show you, you know. They're separated in the kinds of categories of business that come through here.
Anybody else have any?
And obviously, events that are happening need to be coordinated with things even happen in our main gym. When you look at parking, we host events that we can't have major things going on that you've seen, that we've had
Oh,
vehicles
yeah.
get stuck out here because there's parking places where you can't go when it's wet. So there's a lot of coordination happening when we go large, but like I said, we'll get it good for our staff and our kids. And then by way of that, I think we're putting ourselves in a position to bring in groups and the community will definitely enjoy it. So, but it's figuring out the mechanism where it doesn't fit perfectly with public school funding, for
Yeah, and
sure.
like I said, I just needed to understand, when we look at this, how exactly that's gonna be separated and where the funds are gonna come from. Because I know we talked about upgrading, which we need to do,
Right,
but to what level? To a
right.
level of bringing in concerts, to, expensive concerts, like she was saying,
Right,
or to what level? But, I mean,
because we are
the
not
overall
gonna,
idea is great. I just want to.
we are not gonna risk any of
Open
our
the
money
door.
with doing any of these ventures, for sure.
Right.
Private folks do that, Booster Club, we can do that. You might you risk because you want this group to come in and you take a loss. That happens in the real world. We're not willing to do that with our monies, I would say.
Right.
And just one more thing to throw out there, with all of these events coming in, again, the primary reason that this facility exists is to serve the needs of students, and no part of this will make any conflicts to that. So, anything else? All right, I'll get you guys ready.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Treasurer's reports, are you there? Okay, yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay,
All right, we're ready for you.
okay. So, for the treasurer's reports, first off, we have 2 meetings to approve. We have July 12th and the August 2nd special meeting. Then we have our financial reports. We have the June financial report. This was too late for last month's meeting. We waited as long as possible to close out, so we had as much of the fiscal 22 expenses in the correct year. Since we're on a cash basis for both the forecast and financial statements, it's really important to try to have our expenses match the correct year. We were able to use quite a bit of our ESSER 2 funding to offset the deficit in the general fund. I had us projected at a negative for the year, but with the ESSER language allowing for continuity of services, that meant we could supplant our regular expenses. We also have a large amount of encumbrances. These are items that were ordered, they've not arrived yet, so the expense doesn't show up. So that meant we ended the year at a positive $389,694. But not to get too excited, that's not a true surplus. We still have a structural deficit. It was just the use of the funds that we were able to offset it. For the July 22 financial report, which is the first month of fiscal year 23, we had some really promising items. The school district income tax for the April, May, and June 2022 quarter came in at $100,214 over last year, same quarter. The strong wage growth and low unemployment are to thank for these good numbers, since the majority of the school district income tax is based on wages. Property tax also arrived in July. This was the second half collection for the tax year 2021. Property tax splits over calendar years and fiscal years, so it's always a bit of a challenge getting it all into one on the forecast. The overall collection was $541,000 greater than in 2021, which takes into account not just the general fund, but the bond fund, the permanent improvement levies, reimbursements from the state for our rollbacks, and the homestead reimbursement, along with deductions from the county for the collection. Number 3, we have another use for our ESSER funds. We started this mid-year last year and it worked really well. We did background checks and licensure fees. They can run around $80 for an employee, for a substitute employee. So that is a lot to ask ourselves to be able to pay just for being able to work for the district. So by reimbursing them after 5 jobs, it eliminates anyone not really serious about working, but gives them an incentive to work for our district instead of another district. The next part are the sub rates. This goes along with that. We haven't increased our substitute pay since the 2016-17 school year, except for our classified staff that was raised midway through last school year to $11.50. I would much rather see us do incremental amounts on a regular basis going forward, but right now we need to up it a little bit more just to be competitive with everyone else. The activity account for the esports club. Esports was made a student activity a few years back and a supplemental contract for advisors. By making this new classification under the 200 fund, we'll be able to they can use that to track raising funds for different activities and buying things they want to use for their club. And finally, everything we do as a school is governed by Ohio Revised Code. Even though we have a budgetary process written into law, which includes payment with credit cards, the legislature has decided to add more language around credit cards. So annually, I must report any rewards that have been received to the board. So this year, it was $478.41, which came to the district as a check, and we deposited it into the general fund donation account. And finally, I want to thank all of the staff and the summer help for their assistance with the school supplies this year, especially Heidi Heiche, who single-handedly coordinated all the purchasing and sorting and oversaw the delivery to the classrooms, and Karen Wiedemann, who organized and distributed the backpack purchase for our elementary students, and Jerry Barker for keeping track of the families, and Tim Scheel and Corey Schmidt for the logistics and the lots of lifting they did. I think it was a great thing for parents, but I had no idea how challenging it would be when I made the suggestions to the board. And that is all I have for you this month. We'll be back in person next month.
Thank you, Joyce. We have a motion for approval for treasury report items A 1 through 6.
I have a question for board, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
Brad and Joyce.
Yes.
If that's okay? Is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You're just ahead.
What? So Western Reserve is higher than us for the self-pay. I mean, a good amount.
Yeah.
I don't know about
There's
everybody else
Yeah.
too. Is there?
There's quite a wide
There's several.
range of place, yeah. There's a wide range of rates depending where you are. We have a good number of those that have been approved and those that are up for approval tonight that live local that would say the difference is I want to be in Norwalk. So there's a little bit of like, I want to be in Norwalk schools. And then with the drive, why they're choosing here. But here again, it's like a lot of rates. You know, you try to get more and be the top, and someone that eventually will go above that. So yeah, I'm very much aware, as well as Joyce, that, and we had talked that in our meeting that yeah, that is an increase for us, but clearly not the top in the area.
Do you still think this is effective?
I think it is, yes.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to chime in, Joyce, but like she said, 2016 was last time. We're like, wow. So we can't just jump all in. It's got to be little steps. We'll get there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just, want to make sure that we don't have another sub shortage if we can help it. I just want to make sure we're being as
Right.
forward as we can with the subs.
Right. And I'm only telling you across the board of, subs that I speak to when they've been in multiple places, and it's nice, it's a compliment to our district
Right.
when it is. I'd rather be here than X, Y, Z other schools. That's a compliment to our district. But yeah, you have to be within range. But yeah, I mean, every person, depending on where they live, has to make that factor of, it's $10, $15 worth my travel. So everybody has their own kind of scenario there, but
And also, Joyce, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay. Also, we do half day and whole day versus some districts do hourly. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So there's a difference there too.
So our subs are guaranteed at least a half a day.
Right. They
So
can work
that
2 hours
means,
to the day and pay for a half.
They receive at least the $50. And once they sub more than 40 days for us, then they're at the higher rating. Plus our retired teachers, so if Mrs. Winkler's still there, we pay our retired teachers a
she's
little bit
gone.
more also.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure before we change it.
Can we have a second?
Lisa, this working 40 days as a sub-teacher, does that have to be in the same position? Or does it have to be
I
just 40
think that's a
days?
Joyce question. Did you hear Dwayne ask the 40 days, does that have to be in the same sub position or is it
No,
gonna be total?
Right, no, it's just being a sub-teacher for 40 days. If, we track that after the 40th day. So it could be anywhere, any of the buildings, once they hit 60 days consecutive, that's when they go to, actually going into the salary schedule. But that has to be consecutive. The 40 days could just be, however many days each week in whatever position.
We have a second and then we can continue with discussion. if
Second.
everyone's good. Thank you. And then now discussion,
we're just
Any more?
up on Mr. Vaughn.
Jeremy, and then Ralph. So any further discussion?
Sorry, I just didn't want to
No,
prove it,
that's
so I
right.
knew for sure if we could make a change or not. I mean, I'm fine. I think we just need to be open to hearing input throughout the first few months, maybe. So that was getting a bit.
And the part we're doing with 2 learning loss / permanent subs, having 2 guaranteed outside of league with a 1 standalone grade, that's putting us in good position because those folks know that they are guaranteed a job every day. We have those, so that is satisfying that initial, which we haven't done in the past. So it's nice to have essentially 2 per building locked in.
Okay, that makes sense. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Any other discussion? Roll
We
call?
we just do this on our own, hiring the subs. We don't have a company anymore, do we?
We do not.
Yes.
This is only through us. And we have the ability to look at those rates throughout the year. That's not a one-time.
Okay.
Similar to what we had done, I think, when when both of you were brand new, we had custodial, we looked at that rate. So yeah, we can do that anytime. So if we're saying mid-year, we think that's the difference, we can come back to this very item again.
That makes
We'll have to worry about it.
Correct.
Roll call?
Mrs. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Norris? Yes. Mr. Ursula?
Yes.
Mrs. Wick?
Yes. Personnel,
Yeah, we have 2 resignations, Laura Winkler, second one Claudia Gonzalez. This was a late ad, about an hour before the board meeting. So good for her, she got a teaching job. So she has a teaching license. So she was an aide and landed a teaching job. So very good for her. Congratulations, and wish her well at the school district she will be as a teacher. Number 2 for employment, Aaron Reed as a bus driver, Patsy Asmus as a cook helper, Sarah Teeters as a cook helper. This is actually Michelle Isay. She is replacing Claudia, so that's replacing there. So like I said, that was literally a short time before this board meeting. Tori Arrett as a teacher at Maplehurst, probably one of the most exciting offers that she had. But Barb Widman, Leona Lorcher, Mr. Moore, Ken Moore with me and offered her, and she thought she was gonna have a permanent sub position, and then we offered her the full-time teaching position. So very exciting. That's when you're in these positions, and you realize like, this is a fun job to be in when you can offer a Norwalk trucker person who's excited, energetic, and is gonna be great with the littles. And so that was a fun day, made all of our day and as well as hers. Jerry Weinbrenner, this is going to be a replacement for the individual who left us for the special ed intervention specialist at the middle school. So Jerry Weinbrenner in the last position. Number 3, we have extended time. These are ones that we have looked at every year. Some we've added days to, some we have lessened. You're looking at school psychologists, you're looking at speech language pathologists, you're looking at counselors, you're looking at middle school athletic director, and then for Rosalie Smith, you're looking at all her work in the pre-K position at Maplehurst. So those are the positions. Jackie White is our school social worker, student family support specialist. She obviously, just because the school year ends, families and things that she's working on does not end. So that's recognizing that time that she would give to families and kids throughout the summer. Number 4, resident educator coordinator. This was previously handled by Mr. Kreischer. This is Nick Kish, who is now the principal at League Elementary. He is going to be handling that. So I know both Nick and Adam have been working together in the transition with him leading that position. That's essentially getting mentor staff that are going to be working with our new teachers. So that's a 4-year process. He essentially handles years 1, 2, and 3, and then year 4 is handled by the principal in-house, basically giving that teacher a leadership position to demonstrate personal and professional growth. Number 5, a stipend of $150. That's for all new teachers. So we have the 2 recently just added here with Tori Arrett and Jerry Weinbrenner. Number 6, we had done this previously several meetings back for Rebecca Lesh. In her case, she has provided us with documentation of work that she has done in the past that was not provided to us at the time of her hire. She worked at Firelands Health, and due to those years, you're with the contract that she is currently in, you're allowed to be given 4 steps. She was granted 1 at the time of her hire, produced Firelands Health, not knowing that that also could fit in the very assignment she is as an educational aide. So with that experience provided to Jennifer King and myself, that is why we're asking for 3 additional years of credit, moving from step 7 to 10. Substitutes, another exciting list. We had a long list in our last meeting. We have a continuation of that. Some very good individuals here that have not been with us and actually have returned. So worked in other positions, other jobs pre-COVID, and now have a desire to come back. So very excited about the list. They're both certified and classified. Supplemental contracts. We have a social studies teacher at the high school is going to be our new baseball coach. That'll be filling the position of Wes Douglas. So Jason Higgins will assume that role, given his approval. Lisa Goodright, middle school teacher. She will assist with robotics as an assistant at the middle school. Special contracts, we have Cody McCoy, football coach. Volunteers listed, we have Melissa Delaberti, volleyball, Eric Gonzalez, football, Tyler Smith, football. And then the last one there, which typically has been treated as a guest for those youth pastors that are coming to school, working with kids, sitting with kids that want them to be there. It's happening during the lunch hour. So that's put under that category. So that is what I have for personnel, Mrs. Wick.
And we have a motion for approval for our items under personnel, items A1 through 10.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
And discussion?
Yeah, I like a question on this youth pastor.
Yes,
Is that gonna be the only youth pastor that can come in, or can some other churches,
there will be multiple youth pastors.
we have to okay them too? or
We
they just-
determined, so in the past, it has not been ever approved, it has not gone through that, simply treated as a guest. So that person would come to the school, sign in, get a tag, and then go into the lunch room.
Okay,
So I want to make sure that we know who's in our building, that's why we're doing this. So
Right.
this could be more.
okay.
There's an individual at the Presbyterian Church that I've spoken with, Malcolm,
Right.
he would be on that same list as well.
Okay.
Roll call?
Mrs. Crawford.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes,
Mr. Norris.
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler.
yes,
Mrs. Wade.
Yes. Superintendent's reports.
Yes, items for approval. Shortly before the board meeting, Jerry Barker provided you with an email updated of those bus routes.
I saw that.
So the change happened with pre-K, we switched those days, so that's accounting for that. So we do have the accurate school bus routes, and as I mentioned earlier, we have full-time drivers to run all of our school bus routes, so excited for that part. Numbers 2 and 3 are simple agreements that we have. So the first one, Fisher Tice Medical Center for therapy services, we have to provide based on our service agreement. And then the second one's through Norwalk Catholic, also with Fisher Tice Medical Center for nursing services. So those are ones we've had each year. They get reviewed, but more or less standard fare with those. And then the last one is the board's decision. If you wish to have the OSBA delegate, email was received on that. And that is a person who can act on behalf of this board and participate in OSBA and delegate meetings. So that can be a decision here tonight as to who would like to serve in that capacity.
Who's all going to the Capitol Conference? I know I am.
When is that, when?
November 12th? I don't know, I'm just guessing.
I was holding on to my meeting.
Right. I mean, I know some of you probably can't see right now. I've done delegate things before in the past, and I know, when Beth went to Capitol, I had her come in with me just to see what it is. It's just a room full of people voting, standing up and down. I mean, that's really all, it's interesting, but, it's all board members. But, I mean, I can go ahead and be the person, but if other people are gonna go to Capitol Conference, it's, you know,
November, December?
November.
Yeah,
It's in
those are
November.
one of my busiest ones.
Oh,
I just, I would need to, I wouldn't be able to decide tonight. I would like to go first year, but I just, can we look at?
I know there's a cutoff date.
I gotta play it by weather.
So,
Can we just appoint you as our representative?
yeah, I mean, then if somebody else goes, then we just come.
I for sure want to go, I just don't
Yeah.
know if it'll be this year
So
or.
I'll go ahead, I mean, because if you gotta respond as to who, because they gotta have a name down there,
Right.
I'll go ahead and be that person.
Okay.
So this isn't for the other thing that we got from Joyce, that other email?
No, that's
Okay,
for,
because that one had online, which I'm
Yeah,
gonna
no,
sign
yeah.
up for there.
that's
Okay.
something different.
No, that's.
I was fortunate because when I had to go,
Sunshine.
it was just imperfect.
You don't have to do it.
Well, because we just did it. Oh, just did it.
So I need a motion for approval for superintendent's reports, items 1 through 4. Second? Okay, any discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Crawford.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes,
Mr. Norris.
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler.
Yes.
Mrs. Wade.
Yes. Items for information, legislative report. I have no idea. Is there anything out there?
There are some things out there and we're not
I mean,
ready
there's a
to,
lot, I mean, last I talked, there was over 100 bills.
yeah,
So,
and nothing final yet.
I was
There.
gonna say, nothing's come through yet.
Yeah.
right?
A lot
I
of
don't
things
think
are
they're
presented, but yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we won't
I've
blow
seen that.
people's minds yet until
Yeah.
it moves a little further down the legislative
I
trail.
read a few that I'm.
Hobie News.
okay, well, they met, I was at the last meeting, I was on vacation, but what I did get from them is that they have hired a second SRO officer, paid service, who formerly worked in Norwalk Police Department. Other thing, last year, a driver's ed class was first offered, and the class had a remarkable 100% passing rate.
Good.
And a lot of them had their driver's license even by June. This year, we just received a new driver's ed card, and finally arrived last week. It was ordered in June of 2021. Hiring of new teachers, one I told you last time for science, they hired a new English, and the other is a kind of a repeat, but them offering an adult HVAC technician program. However, the enrollment is underway. and classes will start August 29th. So I'd like to see as many people get involved with that right now with the enrollment being open.
Now I need a motion for executive session. And a second, and we will be returning with information. I think we'll just go into the,
Yeah, do the same thing.
yeah, we're just gonna go into the and then Rob second.
You guys are back live again.
Okay. I don't think I can do anything else. First note. Back, more live. Okay, I make a motion for a resolution to amend the current contract of our superintendent, Brett Cooley, to increase the salary by 1.75% effective August 1st, 2022, and an additional 1.75% effective August 1st, 2023. Do I have a second motion?
Second. Move
Jeremy
whatever.
got it, yeah.
The
Well, I
third
have one
one is.
motion. And then, any discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Crawford,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Norris,
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler.
Yes.
Mrs. Wick.
Yes. Okay. I move to authorize the superintendent and or treasurer to enter into an agreement with the Huron County Commissioners to purchase 12 acres of land and to exchange approximately 10 acres of real estate on Shady Lane Drive for the purpose of constructing a new elementary school. An anonymous donor will supply the funds to purchase the new property. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
A second? Everybody say, just any discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Crawford,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Norris,
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler.
Yes.
Mrs. Wick.
Yes. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Welcome to this.
All right.
Jeremy and I are right.
Okay.
We're ready to go.